when you talk about autonomous vehicles, they are not just the tech upgrade; they are the social shift. I feel that I notice a gap how people are talking about the sensor software and the speed, but not enough about the empathy, ethics, and how autonomous vehicles will shape our cities, emotions, and our daily lives. Because that is the main aspect of the AVs. So I usually ask that what happens when the vehicle understands you? What does the trust look like between a human and a machine? That led me to write these particular chapters, and this chapter was my way of connecting to this technical with the human intelligence and the human emotions, bridging the engineering and the imagination.
Welcome back to AudioLife, the podcast where we tell your story in your voice. I'm your host today, Carrie Purcell, and today I'm joined by Pramod Patke. Pramod is a visionary technology leader with over 14 years' experience in autonomous systems architecture, product management, and intelligent design, shaping the future of mobility. He has collaborated with leading vehicle manufacturers worldwide, currently working with Volvo, and driving AI-powered transformation in the automotive industry, a topic that he writes about in our recent co-authored best-selling book, The AI Revolution: Thriving Within Civilization's Next Big Disruption. Now, if you're listening to the show, you've probably heard some of our co-authors already. This is a collaboration of 34 global experts in AI. But our chat today will be the first to cover the topic of autonomous vehicles, highlighting Pramod's contribution in his chapter entitled Beyond Transportation: Power of Autonomous Vehicles. I can tell you from reading it, it's an eloquent chapter overviewing the future of AVs, the underlying technology, the ethics, cybersecurity, and the future of work for those in that field. Pramod, I'm excited to talk to you today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for this podcast, and really good to have me here on this podcast. I'm really excited about it. It's really nice to be part of this particular community, and I met a lot of enthusiastic people, a lot of people from the different backgrounds, and it's really interesting to work with this collaborative approach which Eric has started. So I really feel blissful to be part of this journey.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I do too. So, of course, Eric is the editor that brought us all together. As I noted, people are from all over the world, and many of us did not get to meet prior to collaborating on this work. So, this is a unique opportunity to actually hear the voices behind the authors and meet people from all over the world. For those of you who follow our podcast, you probably know that I'm recording from Canada. Pramod is joining us from Sweden today, right?
Right. I'm based in Gothenburg, Sweden.
Wonderful. So tell us, I'm going to get all into your chapter because, again, it's the first time that we're talking about the hottest topic right now, which is AI. And this is the first time that we're going to dig into autonomous vehicles more. You had so many interesting points in your chapter. And for people who have no background or a lot of background in this area, they will get something out of the chapter. I found it an excellent overview, but it certainly is not light on looking at the future of technology, on looking at the ethical and responsible considerations. And I want to share a lot of that with our listeners today. But first, we just want to get to know you a little bit of your personal and professional background to understand how you got here today. So if you'll indulge me, we just mentioned that you're based in Sweden today. I want to ask where you were born, and is there a story behind your name?
My name Pramod came from the word Sanskrit Pramod, which means joy and delightful. This is what I felt my parents, I guess, when I born. So that's how I got this name. So currently I'm working as a product strategist and system architecture. I have over 15 years of experience in automotive industry. I led projects across autonomous systems, electrification, and vehicle architecture. So I work with the multiple OEMs, Cummins, Volvo cars, Volvo groups in my past career. So my work sits at the intersection of engineering and the innovation. So when we translate a complex technology into the AI or energy management or the ADAS, for example, that's where I work as a system architect. And now I moved to the new role of a product strategist. So what drives me in the building systems that are not just technically advanced, but also meaningful and ethical for the human-centric.
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting. Tell me, just as we're kind of introducing you, tell us something about yourself that we won't be able to read on LinkedIn.
Okay, so that's interesting. So I usually think from the system perspective on each and every topic. So it's not a good thing. I am not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that gives you really good perspective to look at the things differently. Because sometimes you just think emotionally to some of the points. Sometimes you think just ethical point for a given problem or a solution. But
Yeah.
when you start to think on the system, then you try to look from the very different angles. For example, if you take just a normal problem, I want to buy some flowers today. So there will be some emotional aspect to it, or there will be some just funny aspect to it, that I just need to make a prank on someone. That's why I want to buy these like a funny looking flowers or something like that. But if you try to make it as a system, a level thinking, then you will just make sure that yes, I need to buy a flower for this person A, then I need to start my journey from my home around 6 o'clock if I want to buy fresh flowers, otherwise I will not get it. And then you can try to extrapolate those things, like which type of flower she likes, which type of color she likes. Do I need a bouquet or do I need a single flower? If I need a single flower, then which category of flower we need. So if you try to think from that perspective, you will get a quite good result. So that's what I try to use it for each and everything in my life. So that's what I can say about me.
What a great answer! What a great way of explaining to people how your systems thinking, the systems architect mind works, even with a task like just going to buy some flowers. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Let's go into so what led you to write the chapter that you contributed to the AI revolution?
I have been in the automotive industry for last 15 years, and technology evolves as we move along the time, or the x or explain on the x and y graph. But when you talk about autonomous vehicles, they are not just a tech upgrade; they are the social shift. I feel that in my work as
Yeah,
a system architecture and product strategist, I have seen how these technologies are evolving. And also, I have noticed a gap how people are talking about the sensor software and the speed, but not enough about the empathy, ethics, and how autonomous vehicles will shape our cities, emotions, and our daily lives, because that is the main aspect of the AVs. I wanted to explore these deeper questions. So I usually ask that what happens when the vehicle understands you? What does the trust look like between a human and a machine? So that led me to write these particular chapters, and this chapter was my way of connecting to this technical with the human intelligence and the human emotions, bridging the engineering and the imagination, and inviting readers to think that it's not just about the technical aspect, but about their social responsibility and what's possible,
yes.
and what's the value addition which we are doing in this new feature which is coming.
Yeah, that's excellent. So, while we're on the topic, let's dig into your chapter a little bit more. Can you tell people, if I asked you to tell people about your chapter in 60 seconds, just that brief overview, what would you tell them key takeaways are?
Don't be afraid of this technology. Try to embrace this technology. This technology is here to help you to make your lives better, safer, and more ethical when there is all AI is around you. So I explored the idea of the empathic engine, a
Yeah,
vehicle that doesn't just drive itself but understand your emotion and adapts to your needs, and even
yeah,
improves your well-being for the ride. I think when we are progressing on this journey towards the AI and the fast-paced life, we need to make our mind peaceful. So that's how the AI will come into the picture and AVs will come into the picture.
So at the beginning of your chapter, it struck me that you were creating kind of a futuristic vision for what autonomous vehicles or AVs could be, right? A lot of the benefits that they would bring and can and do and will bring to our life. So you brought up just now the example of the empathetic car, and when I was reading it, I was thinking, is this real? Is this something that we're imagining that could be real, or is it real? And you brought up that there is a Stockholm pilot program, I think from 23, that actually explored this. So things like sensing people's mood and emotions and being able to respond maybe with music, with lighting, with adjusting their seat, right? Different things like that. You used a really good, really interesting term at the beginning, that cars could be a trusted companion adapting to your needs, right? So again, that first section of your chapter is really, and I think these are words from your chapter, the transformative promise of personal mobility in the era of AI. So under those, what I'm going to term as benefits, right? Some of those really exciting aspects that AVs can and will have for us. You talk about the empathetic car, you talk about reshaping our use of time, environmental awareness, and smarter infrastructure. Tell us a little bit about some of those aspects, right? That future promise.
So a vehicle is not just a mode of transport in the future. This is what I strongly believe. Imagine you are just having a long day, stressful day at work, and you just need to go home right now, and you step into your autonomous car, not just an AV, but equipped with what you call the empathetic engine as well. So this vehicle doesn't wait for you to say something. It senses and evaluates stress and biometric inputs like a heart rate, posture, and facial expressions. So without mentioning a word, it dims the lights, adjusts the temperature, and reclines your seat and slightly puts you into your favorite playlist. So this is the personal aspect which AV brings to you. And if you try to extrapolate the same thing, you are going into a different zone into this particular journey. So journey is not about going from point A to point B, but you are also making your mind at peace so that you can take new challenge which are going ahead of you. So this is from your personal perspective, but at the same time, this vehicle is not in your personal space, it is in a community space. So it doesn't stop there. So it changes the route. Instead of faster way, it will choose a tree lined street by the water, or it will also try to give you indications to the users which are outside of your car. So these are all the things which it is giving you the more impression of what is the empathetic engine. So AI, when we design with the empathy, can give you more efficiency. I think it can give you more comfort, mental recovery, and even the more emotional connect, something we deeply need for your past-paced lives. For example, you also mentioned about how we are going to do this for the rural purpose or urban impact, right? So urban impact is also plays a vital role here, because AVs are needed to start with. When we start to get into the AV infrastructure, it will play a very important role for the designing of the new things. For example, AVs will help to reclaim spaces. Imagine converting a massive parking lot into the parks, because we don't have to park this vehicle on the particular parking space because it will go to another task. By doing this, we are reusing the parking space which is in the city center, and then we can make it into the offices, or you can make it into the affordable housing. So it is not only the journey cost or not only the mobility problem we are solving, but we are also solving another problems like prices of the houses, which might get reduced because of introduction of the EVs. So this is also another aspect to it. So roads can become narrower, traffic can be more smarter, entire zones will be pedestrian preferred zones. Cities will be more breathable, walkable, and community focused. But the real magic when happens, AV reach to the rural areas. So in many small towns, public transport either unreliable or non-existent. So AV can fill that particular gap of offering on-demand mobility for elderly citizens or students or remote workers. So these are also another benefits of having the AVs in your life. So this revolution is just about the tech AVs, but it is also completely changing our social life, economical life. So this is the bridging the urban and rural side as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and the kind of those benefits are so clear the way that you lay it out. It depending on where you live, it might take a lot longer for us to get to that point. But the clear picture of those benefits and how urban planning can be reimagined, and how that connection to rural areas can be improved. is really exciting. From an individual perspective, you talk about kind of that journey. You talked about the empathetic car, the empathetic engine, and that companion. You also talk in the chapter about reshaping our use of time, right? So now that use of time, rather than focusing on traffic and trying to be the driver, you might be able to take work meetings. You might be able to take a virtual class. You might use it for relaxation. You also talk about, just kind of hint at the idea that we could incorporate AR and VR to, completely re-envision the space that you're in, which again is kind of it's a nice place to start the chapter, because as we get further into this, we do have to talk about, in order to be able to make those roadways run more smoothly, that means that somebody has to be tracking my car at every moment and knows where I am. And there might be some, privacy concerns, and you talk later on about cybersecurity. We'll get into all of that. So there are some real considerations before and as we learn to trust this technology, as humans learn to trust this technology. But I love starting with the promise because it is really exciting. Talk to us a little bit about the technology. You talk about technology that will be available by 2030. Tell us a little bit about that.
So right now we are in the verge of evolution of this particular technology. And if you just roll time back, in 2017, there was a hype of the AVs. So if you know the evolution cycle, so it started in some time back in 2000s, and into 2017 it was like a peak, 2017 2018, and then it started to go down, and now it is starting to rise up again. So this is the typical evolution cycles, and I think autonomous technology is no exception for that. And now we have recently seen that Waymo is also doing really good with their autonomous taxis into the US market. I also worked on the project of Uber taxi, so that was also quite promising. And now Aurora, another player for the autonomous vehicles in the heavy vehicle market, they are also coming very aggressively right now. And few weeks back, Tesla has also launched their robotaxi into the US market. So it's not like a way ahead of the future, it is coming soon, that I would say. And in many ways it is already by 2030s. The core technologies behind autonomous vehicles like AI, lidar, biometric sensors, vehicle to vehicle communication, vehicle to infrastructure communication will not just exist, but they will mature and scalable and deployed very fastly. We can think that it is just like every month there will be lot of updates coming up for these particular technologies. We are already seeing early versions of the pilot programs around the world. So as I mentioned, Waymo, US based Google backed company, and then there are a lot of new startups coming up from the China, and there are some AI coordinated traffic systems into Singapore. So all these infrastructure changes and the companies which are leading these particular things are making a really good impact. So what's changing now is integration and accessibility is the main topic. So because we have the technology, we have the sensors, we have the system, but it will take some time to have accessibility to the common people, because right now it is only on the preferred routes or preferred cities, but it will take some time to have the same concept available for all the people which are living into that particular community. So by 2030 you will see the fleets of AVs in smart cities, and also personalized ride sharing in rural regions, and even the emotional intelligence which I mentioned earlier will also be part of that. So while we may not have the full level 5 autonomy by 2030, but there are versions of the particular engines and intelligence and adaptive mobility will be ready for million people, I guess. And there are different aspects how you develop the autonomous technology, because if you compare the Waymo, there is no safety driver, but there are some another players who has come up with a completely different logic. For example, the company called Iron Ride, which is managing heavy vehicles. So they have a communication tower, the central place where they are monitoring all the AVs. So there are different ways how you can do it and different use cases. So the technology is evolving, infrastructure is evolving, different use case and different systems are evolving. So I think by 2030 there will be a lot of new things will be coming up.
Okay, very cool. So it seems like for There are all kinds of aspects that we'll talk about in terms of the evolution of the technology, the infrastructure, and certainly some of the regulation. But it seems like for adoption to really happen, the key starting point is trust, right? Humans
Right.
trusting. So tell us where we are. how much can we trust today? How much do people trust today? How can we build that trust?
Yeah, so that's a really good question because trust differs from person to person, individual to individual. If you are a passenger who is driving to autonomous vehicle, then you have a different trust issues. Is it a safe ride? Will it deliver me to the destination safely or not? If I used to be driver of this particular taxi, but now I don't have the job, then I have a different trust issue for this. If I am a fleet operator, then I will be more worried because I know that whom to contact if my particular mail delivery is not delivered on time. Then there is a different trust issue. So there are different trust as we change the perspective and your role into this particular society. So you can have the best algorithm or the fastest sensors and the most beautiful design, but if people don't trust the machine, then it won't help to step into that particular vehicle. And the trust doesn't come from the perfection, but I think it will come from the predictability in terms of the autonomous vehicles, and also transparency and emotional comfort. So
Okay.
if we try to achieve the predictability correct, then the transparency correct and the emotional comfort correct, then people can connect more easily to these EVs. People need to feel like the vehicle understands them, communicates clearly, and make decisions they can relate to. So that's why the concept of the empathy engine I mentioned into the book. So that's why it is critical. So it's not just about the AV doing right and wrong, or it's about how you make you feel it. Does it explain why it is stopped? For example, there are different traffic situations. If you talk about a country like India, there is a very unpredictable traffic and unpredictable way how people moves on the road.
Yep.
Whereas if you talk in the Sweden, there are much more mature traffic, and there are most of the people follow the rules. So AVs are easier to drive and operate into the countries like Sweden, but it will be much more challenging to drive it in India. Then comes the empathy trolley problem. What you will do if there are some people on the road, but you don't have to another space to go, and you have to give the side to the emergency vehicle, which is just at your back. So it makes very difficult to do the predictions, and also making a common rule across all the globe, because
Yeah.
the rules for the autonomous vehicles will vary, I think, based on your community, based on your country, based on legislation where these are placing. So building trust is will be very difficult for this, but it is not only about the safety, but also for the psychological confidence of the people who are around the autonomous vehicles, and the companies
Yeah.
and the cities that get it right, they will lead the persons who will get this thing right will lead the mobility. For example, Waymo and the people in Phoenix, for example, they have tried to adapt themselves into this particular AV way of working or AV environment. So that's why those are working properly into that particular area. There are also some learning paths, because if you see the Waymo's journey, those were not that much accurate in the beginning. But as you get more data, they try to learn on themselves, and then they try to move it forwardly.
Very interesting.
And now for a word from our sponsors. Ready to share your stories and life philosophy? Or capture those of a parent or grandparent? Or maybe a corporate package is right for you to build connection across your workforce and add value to your clients. Visit audiolife.io today to learn more. Our listeners will get 10% off using discount code GIFT10 and order number AudioLife Podcast. AudioLife, where memories find their voice.
A few of the aspects that you brought up that I want to pick up on. So in building trust with for humans to feel safe, feel comfortable taking an AV, you brought up initially that like that user, it's almost like the user experience is really important, right? They have to feel a really good, comfortable user experience, and also transparency in decision making, like explainable AI, right? So how decisions are made. You brought up on that ethical concern piece the trolley dilemma. So if I'm giving over my my autonomy to an AV to drive, to make all the decisions on the road. And they have the car is now making the decision to put my life at risk to save the lives of a whole group of pedestrians. Can I trust it to save me, or is it going to save the pedestrians? And how do we make those decisions the right way? You brought up in your chapter that this does come into cultural decisions, right? There are different decisions that different cultures will want to make. So those ethical considerations can be regionally based, and for that to happen, again within that specific culture, for me to have the comfort that I understand how decisions are made, and that I feel that it's a companion and understands me. It does need to align with the cultural norms and how that decision making would happen. But it may not be the same between Japan and India and Sweden and Singapore and the United States. But then to get the right type of regulation and approval, we do need global collaboration. Although, to your point, the cities and nations that figure it out first are going to be leading, right?
Right.
Okay, good. So I think we have some foundational understanding of how to build trust for humans with autonomous vehicles, and some of the ethical concerns that exist, both with, again, giving your autonomy to the vehicle to make those decisions for you, and also considering cultural adaptability. Now, another factor that you talk about within your chapter that we haven't talked about yet is cybersecurity, right? There are threats on the cybersecurity landscape, and I think you mentioned in the chapter that that's actually increased quite a bit recently. So talk to us a little bit about what those threats look like, what a hacker scenario might look like, and if there has been an increase, what it looks like.
Yeah, that's a really important question we need to address in terms of the autonomous vehicles. So autonomous vehicles are essentially computer on wheels, constantly connected, sharing a lot of data with the servers, constantly collecting the data as well. So the connectivity opens incredible possibilities and also incredible vulnerabilities as well. So as you just send a lot of data, a lot of open ports, and it will create a lot of vulnerabilities in terms of the cybersecurity. So from cybersecurity point of view, the risks are really real. The hacker could manipulate a vehicle behavior, interpret the data, or disable the safety systems. So let's imagine this. There is someone who is rerouting the autonomous vehicle remotely or tampering with its decision making software. So it's the same thing what we see in the science fiction films, like someone is hacking the car and getting into your system. So it is not like no more science fiction. It can happen at any time. So now the ethical concerns go even deeper. AVs gather biometrical data as well, so track your movements, preferences, emotional data, and stages. So we are not just protecting the hardware of the car, but you are also protecting the personal habits and personal data. So we are protecting a human dignity and privacy. So we must ask, who owns this particular data? Can it be sold or shared or misused? What if the vehicle prioritizes the safety differently based on your on user personal profile? For example, I am very aggressive driver, so AV should not interpret this data from my driving pattern perspective. So there are different aspects to it. So to address this, we need a layered difference of approach, I would say, in cybersecurity. So for example, AI-driven cybersecurity that can detect and neutralize the threat in real time. So there will be an AI bot built inside the autonomous vehicle, which is continuously monitoring these threats and trying to have a safety mechanism placed at each interval, so that threat is not getting into the computers of the car. So that could be one aspect. Then blockchain systems will ensure the data and integrity and transport logging. And most importantly, strongly regulated frameworks by using the authorities who are the legal owners of that particular country or the particular fleet owners. So that enforce ethical boundaries, not after some, not of, it should not be done. It should not be a reactive but proactive approach by all these authorities. So cybersecurity in AVs is not a technical issue, but it's ethical issue as well, because when people put their lives in the hands of the machine, the system must be trustworthy and intelligent.
Good. Okay. Really excellent description there. Really important that that nations and regulators need to be proactive on this. Your answer puts at least me at ease that there are a lot of mitigation strategies, right? That it isn't a technical issue, that there are really clear mitigation strategies, and then it just needs really, really careful regulation. Is that fair?
Yeah,
is that optimistic, or is that true?
yeah, it's true and optimistic both, I would say, because that's, if we don't follow it, then it will not be a safer place to live, or safe. It
Yeah.
will not be a safer AV to drive, I would say,
Okay.
because the things which we need to make safeguard are something is not impossible, but those are already there. Are some safety mechanisms are already in place. I few months back I visited one of the facility here in the Sweden called AI Sweden. So they have developed one particular AI systems which can invite other hackers to hack them, showing itself as like it's a vulnerable, but it's not a
Yeah.
vulnerable. It's try to learn on the go. So these
Cool.
kind of
Yep.
softwares are already available. So we just
Yeah.
want to make regulations strict and mandatory for all these particular AVs, so that it will be a safer way to drive it.
Got it. Okay. Good. Now, at the end of your chapter, you talk about the future of work, and you talk about this transformation being bigger than the mobility industry, right? So we've talked a little bit about urban planning already being completely transformed. You talk about manufacturing and logistics, and even healthcare. And you talk about it with an optimistic perspective. Again, could be true, could be optimistic and true, but explain your optimism about the future of work for the roles that will be impacted or transformed with AVs.
The reason why I mentioned the optimistic approach is like, if you look at the things not optimistically, then it will not turn out good. This is my personal belief, but I might be wrong, but this worked out really well for me. So that's why I take an optimistic approach on everything. So I take a deeply optimistic view on the future of the work, especially with context of automation and autonomous vehicles. Some traditional roles like a driving, delivery, or a fleet logistic will shift, but history shows that every major technology wave creates a new jobs and couldn't have created new jobs. So I guess you also mentioned in your last week podcast with another co-author that AI will not replace humans, but the humans who knows AI will replace the persons who don't know the AI. So that's how it applies to this as well. So
Yeah.
with autonomous vehicles, we will see there will the rise in the roles like a mobility system manager, or remote fleet operators, or ethical AI auditors. Definitely, there will be a lot of need of the automation engineer, or autonomous vehicle engineers, cybersecurity guardians for autonomous vehicles, and even experienced designers in the vehicle environments. How good environment you will need. So there are a lot of new opportunities coming, and in fact, AV will take over repetitive tasks. For example, humans will not be need to do each and everything repetitively, and they can focus their time on making creative things. So if you also see the evolution, so humans are sustaining the evolution or making progress in evolution because they think creatively. So if you take a repetitive task away from them and use an AI to do it, then you can more focus more on to do creative things. It is just your mindset. You need to shift it from thinking like AI is not going to take your job. I will get more time to think differently. I will get more time to learn new things, and this is the future of the things. If I don't do it now, then it will be very difficult for me.
Yeah.
So think about it like a commutes become learning spaces. The logistics becomes a data-driven approaches. Rural entrepreneurs gain access to the urban markets, because right now, if you talk from the rural perspective, most of their time goes into the planning how they will ship this particular. For example, they grow this particular fruits and vegetables into the rural market, and they need to send it to the urban market. They spend a lot of time in planning these activities. Do I need a truck? How to plan a truck? How to book the truck? And how to handle all these transport related things. But if there are AVs, then they are more focused on their own product to improve their productivity. So the future work is not disappearing. I guess it will be evolving. But to
Yeah.
get there, we need to be proactive in investment. As I said, you need to change your mindset first, then you need to reskill yourself, educate yourself, and you need to make sure like it is not only about you, it's about you and your community as well. You also need to go together on this particular journey. If we
Yeah.
shape this transition thoughtfully, then autonomous vehicles won't just move the people, they will just move the entire economies, I would say, towards more
Yeah.
equity based, empowered, and intelligent futures.
That's exciting. I think that's a great answer, and I know you know from from what I've written in this book and from what I've shared that I do share your optimism about how roles are going to evolve, how they're going to transform. I think you give some really practical examples, both in your answer, but also in your chapter about what those roles are going to look like, what they're going to evolve into. So I am a believer. I just I think it's important that we do talk to address that people are afraid of job displacement, right? And that can be some of the delay in adoption and some of the concern about what's coming.
Right.
So I share your optimism, but I
Yeah.
still want to put you on the spot to try to convince people.
yeah, I understand that. And I also had the same discussion with my mentor, and that time we thought that it's not about us. It's about the societies we live in, the country we live in, and all the decision makers. So just a hypothetical case we used to discuss always. Let's take an example that country is not driven by the politicians, but the thinkers and the visionaries and the technology specialists. So how that city it will be, or how that country will evolve. For example, if we just use the AI everywhere to do the repetitive jobs, then there will be no jobs for majority of the persons. Then how they will survive? Then then the terms comes like a social income or the continuous income from the government perspective. So that's how the visionary should think that, and they should give more benefits for the learning and the teaching perspective. So that's how the visionary should drive the countries rather than political part of it. So but it's just a hypothetical case, it doesn't happen in the real world, so
maybe not yet.
Yes.
maybe it will and needs to.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really interesting to kind of go through you mentioned early on that some of these scenarios have been explored through sci-fi, right? And that's how we're familiar with them. But taking this philosophical perspective on how communities, how nations will be reshaped just from a philosophical perspective, right? Worry about how to make it actually happen with government and regulation and people's trust and all of that afterwards, but just kind of imagine what would work. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think we're in a phase where it's important to spend a bit of time on that. Was there anything that you wrestled with or debated as you wrote your chapter, and maybe you put it in or maybe you left it out because of that?
So there was a particular one thing which I debated, how far we can go into that particular ethical and emotional side of autonomous vehicle. I'm an engineer, so as an engineer and a product designer, I train to think in terms of the system. As I said, I think system oriented or system architecture point of view. But writing this chapter pushed me to explore the human layer of questions like will the people actually trust the machines to make moral decisions? Because that will be a basic question each and every person will ask who is using the autonomous vehicle. Then how do you code empathy?
Yeah, good question, right?
So that's a really good question. Because empathy from your perspective is completely different than what I think as empathy. That particular part was highly debatable, so I didn't dare to write it on this particular chapter. And then another aspect of it, like should AVs adapt to the cultural values or stick to the universal standard, which we mentioned earlier as well. Like there are different ethical standards in the Japan where they respect elderly more than the younger generations. But if you go to another European country, then they have a completely different culture. So there are a lot of things which are I haven't discussed in terms of the empathy here. So I went back and forth on these particular things, on how much detail I had to include, especially with the topics like a trolley problem and emotional AI, or even the idea of cars responding to the streets. I felt that is bold but necessary. So in the end, I decided to embrace the complexity because this chapter isn't about what we can build, I think it's about how we can build it responsibility. And I wanted to readers to sit on those tensions, just like I just want readers to put in the same place where I was while writing this particular topic. That yes, these are the things they should also understand. That how do you code the empathy? It's a really basic problem if I'm coding for a autonomous vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you first get introduced to this field?
So I started my journey as a application engineer. I was into the system engineering, so mainly it was for the NI National Instrument hardware I was working on, and then I got chance to work with a company called Cummins. So that was my first introduction to the automotive industry. My father used to tell me that when you was a kid, you always used to like the engines more than the other things which you used to play, because my dad also loves the engine, so he used to repair his bike and his car at the home. So I used to always watch him how he is doing it. So I was always into the engines and the automotive field. So that, I think that was the connections, and luckily I got chance to work with the company called Cummins. So that's how I got my first break into the automotive. And then I started to work on the basic hardware, then the software, then I eventually get into the big engines, and then I moved to the off-highway and on-highway applications. So I was always interested into how things work, how the system works. And then then during this particular period, there was a boom of automotive vehicles and on autonomous things, and then I got the chance to move to Sweden to work on this particular technology, and that's how I get it into here.
Very interesting. So, I mean, some of it is organic, but a lot of it comes out of interests and influences that you've had since a child. That maybe your father shared some of his interests with you, but that was kind of what your mind focused on. I find it interesting every time we talk a little bit about your personal life. Your systems architect brain always comes in. Your work is part of your passion. How do you balance work, which is such an exciting field with so much evolution happening? And we're recording this in 2025, talking about what's coming in 2030 and how close it is. How do you balance all of that work, all of the passion and the interests and the way that your mind works with your personal life?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And frankly speaking, I'm not able to balance it out. So it's always you kind of thinking, yeah, I'm focusing more on this particular technology or my particular pet project. And then you think, yeah, I should have spent this time playing with my son, who is just asking his time. So
Yeah.
it's really hard to balance it out. And I was discussing this same with one of my friend who has multiple startups. So, and he said that yes, you will never able to balance it out, he said, because you just have to make those decisions. But you just wanted to make sure that as long as you are enjoying this, then it won't matter if you are balancing it, or if you are able to balance it or not. Because I also believe that our mind is developed like that. If you are doing good in something, and you will always try to think that yes, I left that thing. So your mind always try to think like that. That yes, I have achieved this, but I missed that particular part. So it's really hard to balance it out. But sometimes you need to make that particular decision.
Yeah, so it's almost is a balance in making the decision, and if it's something that you are good at, you feel good, you're loving it,
Right.
then I think there's always that argument that sometimes it's not work, if you love it enough. So one more question on the personal side. We've at least implicitly talked about your use and work with AI professionally. What about just a personal use of AI that you enjoy, or that saves you time, or that you bring into your personal life?
Yep. So personal use of AI is quite interesting for me. I have a son who is 3 years old. So there are different patterns in the AI, how you train a model. So it is the same thing when you try to teach your son what is this particular thing. So for example, if I try to show him this is the car brand called Volvo, and then he will say yes, Volvo. But then I try to show him an old symbol of the Volvo, then he will say yes, it looks like a Volvo, but is it a really Volvo, or not. So it's a reinforced learning and
Yeah.
all the data collection. So this is how I see it as a AI getting developed inside my son's brain. But that's how the brain also develops. So that's why we call it as a neural networks. So
Yeah.
this is on the fun side. But in my day, I try to build a lot of multiple AI bots or AI agents. Now we call it as. So my son likes the superhero t-shirts and collections. So I usually sometimes don't get time to look for those. So I build an AI agent which will shop for him based on his preference, based on his superhero character name, and then it will automatically ship that particular parcel to our home. So that's really interesting use case which I did it. There are some other pet projects which I'm currently working on improving the human efficiency in day-to-day life. For example, we take a lot of decisions every day, and it consumes our lot of our time. I remember the quote from Mark Zuckerberg, why he wears the same t-shirt every day, because he has one less decision to make every day. So I am building something like which will help you to reduce your decision dilemma or decision frustration or decision time making. The AI will do it for you. So that is in development right now. So let's see how it goes. That is the thing which I'm working mainly right nowadays.
So interesting. When you get to needing some user testing, let me know. I'd be happy to test it out for you.
Definitely, I will share that with you as a beta tester.
Sounds good. Well, this has been such an interesting conversation. I could learn so much more from you, but we'll start to wrap up for our time today. So, where can people learn more about your work or connect with you?
Easiest way to connect with me is on the LinkedIn. So I'm quite active on the LinkedIn, and I try to post my articles and my work there. So that will be the easiest way to get in touch with me.
Excellent. Good. So we'll share contact information as well. We'll share information on, don't forget the AI Revolution book where you can read Pramod's chapter. You can find him on LinkedIn. Pramod, was there anything else that you wanted to share with our audience today that I haven't asked you about yet?
Not particularly, but I would like to close it on this particular thing, like autonomous vehicles, if they are interested. So autonomous vehicles aren't just about moving faster, so they are moving smarter, fairer, and more humanly. So don't get afraid of this particular technology. And also, as we step into this new era, we have two choices. Do we build machines that simply navigate the roads, or do we build the systems that understand people, respect their culture, and protect us as well? So these are the two things they should also always keep in mind. And my hope is that this chapter and this conversation help us all rethink the mobility, not just like a technology, but also as a shared human opportunity. Because future isn't just automation, it's empathy, collaboration, and also much more collaboration between each other. And it is in all our hands. It's not about the AI running it, but it is we who are developing it and reshaping it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Great end. I want to thank you for all of your time and all of your insight today. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed to have this conversation with you.
Good. Thank you. So did I. And for everybody listening to us today, it's been another episode of AudioLife, the podcast where we tell your story in your voice. I've been your host today, Carrie Purcell, joined by Pramod Patke. And if you like what you heard today, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another story for you.
If you like what you heard today, consider recording your own AudioLife private podcast or giving one to a loved one for a unique and memorable gift. Today, AudioLife listeners will receive 10% off using discount code GIFT10 and order number AudioLife Podcast. Also, remember to rate our show and subscribe so you'll never miss an episode.